Well, this was one of my lowest lows. And I remember getting laid off. I went straight to boot camp and I was just sitting in the office crying. And my coach at the time, he like left the workout session to come and talk to me. He's like, "What's going on? Why are you crying?" And I was like, "Oh my God, I just got laid off." And specifically for that job, I had like picked up where I was, moved to the area for that job. And so I like felt heartbroken and kind of a little bit betrayed, right?
Yeah, totally.
So he was like, "Don't worry, I'm gonna talk to the owner. We're gonna work something out for you. Like, we understand your situation. You need to keep coming." That's what he said to me. "You need to keep coming. You need this. Like, if you need it at any time, it's now." That's what kept me positive, and that's what kept my spirits up. And that was the only positive thing that was going on in my life. And it's funny because that's when I started getting results.
Welcome to Beyond the Scale, the show where everyday heroes share their stories on how they turn their lives around for the healthier. I'm Coach Brittany, and today's guest is Zenia Joyner. She shares how you can overcome stereotypes and thrive with the support of others. Hope you enjoy. Welcome, Zenia Joyner. How are you today?
Good, thank you. How are you, Brittany?
I'm good, thank you. I appreciate you being on the show and being able to share your story. I think you're going to connect with a lot of people. So
thank you for having me. I'm so grateful for everything that you guys do here.
Absolutely, we're grateful for you. So you're the Fountain Valley Fit Body Bootcamp owner. Tell me, what is it like changing lives on a daily basis?
It's very gratifying. I come from a social services background, so I was always in the realm of helping people. So I'm still helping people, but just in a different industry.
Got it, okay. Now, you started off as a Fit Body Bootcamp client, but has fitness always been a part of your life?
No, not at all. We didn't really know what healthy living was because I grew up in a very poor household and environment. My parents are originally from Laos and Thailand in Southeast Asia.
Okay.
They immigrated here from the US, so we grew up poor, Section 8 on welfare. We had no concept of what healthy living was. We just ate whatever was on the table and whatever we could afford. So found fitness a little bit later in my life, in my late 20s.
So what was it like growing up in, a low-income area? How did that affect you and your image and just your life in general?
Well, when you're that young, you don't really know that you're poor.
Right, you don't know any better.
Yes, until you're in your teens and then you start recognizing these things that you don't necessarily have, or you see the society or whatever's on TV, and then you come to a realization that, hey, I'm not rich and I don't have these things, right? So, well, my parents, they came to America through a refugee camp. And at that time, my mom was pregnant with my older sister. And all my mom ever wanted was for her children to be born in the US and live the, so to speak, American dream, right? So at this time, my biological father and my mother were married. And I say biological father because I didn't know my real father. I didn't meet him until I was 13. They came together and, years passed. The refugee camps, they came through the Catholic Church who sponsored them. So they ended up in Texas, and that was a process of, being on welfare, getting into Section 8 housing. And at that time, my biological father, he was a wife beater. He cheated on my mom. He was an alcoholic. So at that point, my mom was pregnant with me. And she made a really wise decision. She left my father. And I was about 8 months old. And that's when she came to California.
Okay.
And left my biological father. And I have a great stepdad who later came in my life when I was 4. But when you're poor, you just don't know any better.
Right.
And
now you said you kind of realized it kind of became more aware of it when you were in your teens, and that's also when you first met your biological father. Like, that had to be a really tough time for you, especially being a teen.
Yeah, you deal with abandonment and just feeling like, why isn't he a part of my life? Like, what is wrong with me? even though I had a really great stepdad and a great role model in my life since I was 4, there are still those internal feelings that you deal with.
Right.
And that was like the first and last time I've ever seen or heard from him. So you just kind of deal with it, and you show gratitude to what you do have.
Right.
Right? Because I still received love from a male figure, and the best stepfather I could ask for, and he supported me through everything. So I don't really think about it now.
Okay.
Yeah, he's just kind of, I guess you want to say, sperm donor. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I'm glad you
Yeah.
still were able to have that male positive figure in your life to help you through, even though you did, have those thoughts and feelings of blame on yourself. I mean, that's what it was at the end of the day. So, I mean, how did your upbringing affect you being able to build relationships with other people?
So with my stepfather being in my life, he really pressed upon me education, education, education. So my mom, she has a high school level education, but in Thailand. So in the U.S., it's very different. So I would probably say it's like 8th grade.
Okay.
Right? And going through the refugee camp and the immigration system, they require you to go to school. So my mom did go to junior college for a little bit. She dropped out later because she had my little brother. My stepfather, he finished his AA at a junior college, and he's now a social worker.
Okay.
And he works for Sacramento County now for about 40 years. So he's been, in that sense, always pressing education on me. He would literally sit down almost every night with me at the kitchen table, dining room table, and do homework with me. And that's one of the things that I had to do for my parents is, okay, I need to go to school because they're telling me this is very important. This is what they wanted for me. And that's what their definition of the American dream was. Because in Thailand and Laos, education is, you have to pay for education. They don't have public school systems the way we do in the US. So I took advantage of that. I obtained my bachelor's and master's degree with no student debt. So all through financial aid, and that's what I mean by I took advantage of it. And that's what my parents wanted for me, right? And that's what I learned, was just knowing my parents' background and really just being motivated and showing them that I could do this. And I was the only sibling of 3 that took advantage of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that says a lot about you, that you have a lot of drive in you and, you didn't want to let them down. What was it like? What was school like for you? Were you always excelling in school and like it was kind of known you were going to go do the college thing, or did you struggle in school?
I was like the perfect student. And that, I owe it to my parents because they told me it's important. That's what you need to do. And I think that is part of, the cultural stereotype of Asian background is school, 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 right?
Right.
So in high school, I was involved in different activities. I kept myself busy. I grew up in a very small town, Stockton, California. Okay. So, I mean, there's not really much to do.
Right.
If you're not getting in trouble, you're really focused on school. So I was engulfed in all these activities, and one of the reasons why I did that was I was distracting myself from, being bullied.
Oh,
because where I went to school, there wasn't a big Asian community. And so I was always finding friends outside of the Asian community, like Caucasian, pretty much was the demographic there. So I was bullied in high school because I was like the only Asian that really hung out with the Caucasians. I was the Asian that didn't necessarily look like them. There was probably like 10 Asian people, and they always stuck together, and I was just like an outsider. So that was, that's, something you deal with too in high school. And I think back now, I'm so glad that they didn't have social media back then, because it would have been 10 times worse.
Right? It's crazy these days.
So so it was, for me looking back, I knew that me being involved in all these school activities and excelling in a different way, that was me distracting myself and not getting pulled into that bullying.
Did the bullying affect you in any way? I mean, I know it had to affect how you felt about yourself, but Like, how did that transpire in your life?
Yeah, you definitely deal with a lot of self-image and confidence issues. So, going back to the image of like a typical Asian female is like you're supposed to be small and petite, right? And that wasn't my body type at all. So I was called fat. I was made fun of with family, even family, people, the girls in high school. This even carried on into college. Like I was called fat by like an Asian male in a club one time.
Wow.
And so that was that, and that's like later in my 20s. So I'm continuously living like my high school nightmare over and over again. I never really thought that I was fat. It was just I accepted my body. But then later in my 20s, then I was like, oh yeah, I'm getting fat. Like this is, and it was different factors that really played into that. And that was before Fit Body Boot Camp.
Okay. And now, like, how did you feel when you realized that you were gaining weight? And
Okay, so I wasn't fitting my work clothes.
Okay.
Like my trousers, like I couldn't button my pants. And I was like, oh no, this is a problem. And then I noticed myself, I had very low energy.
Okay.
I was always grumpy. I was just so unhappy with my life. I would literally sit in my cubicle and not talk to anyone. And this was when I was working a 9-to-5 job. And one of my coworkers told me, you must not be a morning person. Or she would make comments like, did you have your coffee yet, right? So that's the realization for me, and having that self-reflection is like, you gotta change something, Zenia. Like, what's going on with you? And this was later in my late 20s. You do the happy hours, you binge drink, you binge eat, you're not eating right. So that's where I was before I found Fit Body Boot Camp. Then one day I was just sitting in my cubicle. I bought a promotion on Living Social.
Okay.
And I found the nearest one. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try this out. I went. It was awesome. I fell in love with it. Then I knew going into meeting with my coach at that time, I wanted to sign up. And I didn't care how much it was going to cost, whether it was $100 or $200. I was just ready to just sign the paperwork and become a long-term client.
Now, was that because you were just ready to start your fitness journey, or was it something about the coach or when you walked in? And
it was both.
Okay.
It was really both. The atmosphere, the community, going in, seeing that not everybody was fit. Everybody was there just to better themselves and be supportive. That was really what caught my eye. And the support that you get, accountability. And it wasn't just like the owner, it was also the coaches and the clients.
Okay.
So the client, the client vibe really helped me become interested in becoming a part of that community, because all of the clients there were so positive, and they were all shapes and sizes. So I didn't feel intimidated.
So that's exactly, you said that perfectly, the community. It's everyone in a whole that is there to support and encourage you and, just keep you on your goals and stay positive through everything.
Right.
So did you also get help with nutrition at that point?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, definitely. So during this time as a client, I learned a lot about nutrition, which I had no aspect of because I grew up eating Asian food my whole life, which is very high carb, high sodium. And it's food that I love, but it catches up to you as you get older. So, I got a lot of help with nutrition. I loved the workouts. I loved everybody. And actually, funny story, going back to, I already knew, I already had that mindset that I wanted to sign up. At that time, cable, right? Is not a necessity. It's a luxury.
Right, exactly.
So I went in, I told myself, Zenia, you are going to cancel your cable because you're paying $80 for cable and you're just sitting on the couch watching TV. You're not going to do that anymore. You're going to use that $80 towards your boot camp membership, and you're going to be at boot camp every day. And that's what I did. So, and then I just had to come up with the rest at that point. So I share this story all the time with my clients because they'll make comments like, well, it's too expensive or I can't afford it. But, it's a mind frame.
Totally.
And that's what I did. I was single, living by myself, and I was like, I'm gonna make this happen. I'm gonna afford it. And so I turned off my cable.
You totally put it as one of your top
Yeah,
priorities,
and
which is awesome.
I literally went to Walmart and bought one of those antennas that you put in your TV. I don't even think they have those anymore, but that's what I did. And then I got 15 local channels, and that's all I needed. So right after work, I went straight to boot camp, came home, and that's really when my journey started.
That's awesome. So now you totally had a support system at the Fit Body Bootcamp location. At that point, I mean, you had mentioned before that you were even bullied by your family. So was your family supportive with your fitness journey?
No, not at all. So years before I found Fit Body Bootcamp, I did try different things, like 24-hour fitness. I did CrossFit, and I would go back to my family and even my boyfriend. I was in a relationship at that time, and everyone was just negative. They're like, well, why would you want to do this? Why do you want to pay that much money, right, to do this? Or you just want someone to motivate you. Absolutely.
Totally, that's what we need.
Yes, because I don't have the motivation. So I need someone to motivate me and keep me accountable. And that's what I found with Fit Body Bootcamp. And so here, they're all in your ear and they're not being supportive at all. Then you just got to kind of cancel it out and just not even deal with it. And even after being a client and getting results, because as a client, I lost 30 pounds. And I went from a size 10 to a size 6. I went from a size XL to a medium. Even then, you still have negative people in your life.
You're always going to have negative people.
Right.
And it's sad, but it's just the truth.
Right.
Of it.
So, and they may not see it, but you see those victories yourself. So you just pat yourself on the back and you keep moving on.
I mean, how did it feel when you realized, I just went from a size 10 to a size 6? I lost 30 pounds. Like, what were your energy levels
like? I didn't realize it, to be honest with you. My coaches, they're like, you're changing, like you're transforming. And I'm like, really? And I'm just going, right? I'm just going to boot camp, having fun, and every day, just like 4 or 5 days a week. And I was like, oh, and they're like, let's take your picture and let's do a side-by-side. And I was like, okay. And you could just see it. You could just see it. And then when I got on the scale and when I got my measurements done and then I was shopping for new clothes, then that's when I realized it. It was like 8 months after being a client. I didn't notice it until someone brought it to my attention. And I was getting through the workouts with less pain.
It's easier and easier every time, right?
So that's really what transpired is the boot camp clients and my coaches were letting me know, like, hey, you're doing really well.
And I bet that feels so good when you hear that coming from someone else
yeah.
also.
Because sometimes we're so hard on ourselves.
Totally.
And we don't want to give ourselves credit until someone tells us, and then you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I see it. I see what you're talking about. Yeah.
So what advice would you give to someone that feels like they're being held back by stereotypes?
Not to believe them, because no matter what race you are or gender or social class, stereotypes don't really exist because everyone is different, right?
Right.
So it's like you're blonde hair, blue eyes, but your body's different from another blonde hair, blue eye girl. You just really have to break through that and be confident in yourself, be comfortable in your own skin. Even today, going through my fitness journey, I still have my challenging days where I'm like, oh, I feel bloated, or, I don't feel like these pants are fitting well. But you just have to remember where you came from and what you've already accomplished and just keep going, and every workout, every meal is a new chance for you to start fresh, even if you messed up over the weekend,
right?
Or you've kind of fell off the wagon for a few weeks.
Yeah, because I used to catch myself like I'd be doing so good and then I'd eat bad. I'm like, oh my gosh, and I just go down this spiral. And it's like, no, okay, I messed up. Start again, like you said, a fresh day, a fresh meal, fresh workout.
Yeah,
I love
just breaking the stereotype, I guess.
Totally.
Yeah.
So how do you use your past to really connect with your clients?
I think that a lot of people who meet me now, they look at like, oh, you had it all. Like, you have it all. And it's like, no, you have to share your story and tell them like, this is the struggle that I went through, so I know what you're going through. And even outside of fitness, right, it really starts with like personal. You have to break through your personal challenges before you can even focus on health and fitness, because it's all here. It's all in your mind. Something happened to me though when I was a client that actually helped me become an owner. So during this time, like the economy was really bad, and I had gotten laid off twice in 2 years.
Oh.
And I had gotten laid off during the time that I was a client. Well, this was one of my lowest lows. And I remember getting laid off. I went straight to boot camp, and I was just sitting in the office crying. And my coach at the time, he like left the workout session to come and talk to me. He's like, what's going on? Why are you crying? And I was like, oh my God, I just got laid off. And specifically for that job, I had like picked up where I was, moved to the area for that job. And so I like felt heartbroken and kind of a little bit betrayed, right?
Yeah, totally.
So he was like, don't worry, I'm gonna talk to the owner. We're gonna work something out for you. Like, we understand your situation. You need to keep coming. That's what he said to me. You need to keep coming, you need this. Like, if you need it at any time, it's now. So I kept coming, they worked with me, they really supported me. And I did whatever I could for them at that point, like promotion and just really kind of becoming a ambassador for them, because they were helping me out. And really during that time, when I was laid off, and I didn't know what to do, because I don't have family in Southern California. My family's in Northern California. So I didn't really have anybody to rely on except for my boot camp family. And honestly, going through that's what kept me positive, and that's what kept my spirits up. And that was the only positive thing that was going on in my life. And it's funny because that's when I started getting results, right? And it's a little emotional talking about it, because, it really humbles you. So I treated my job search like a job. I would go to Starbucks every day, 9 to 5. Then I'd go to boot camp, work out at the 5:30 p.m. session, and I just continued to do that. Otherwise, I was just going to fall in a depression and stress myself out. And so that's what I did. And in that period of time, so I was like on unemployment for about a good year. During that time, my car got repossessed because I was just late on bills. Like I was like, I have to pay my rent first, and then everything else has to come after. And then I got my car back with the help of family. My family helped me out. And this was like when I was just like, I don't want to deal with this ever again. I do not want anybody to be in control of my bank account, my economy, my job. And I knew in my heart that there was something more that I needed to do with my life. So I have, my mom instilled these entrepreneurial skills in me, because she's been a seamstress for, I want to say, almost 40 years. She's the only person that makes traditional Thai and Laotian clothing in her area. So at a very young age, she would take my sister and I to like her client's house and measurements, and she was sewing at home. So she did all of this at home. So, one day I was at boot camp. I was really early. I was just looking around, stretching, and the owner happened to be there. And I said, so, how did this all happen? Like, what is Fit Body Boot Camp like on a business side? How did you become an owner? And then he gave me the information, and I was like, I'm gonna do this. Because of my coaches and because of my own experience, I wanted to give that back, because I know I was gonna change some more lives the way they changed my life and helped me. So I went through the whole process of becoming an owner, and I reached out to my business partner, and here we are 5 years later.
I know,
Still,
congrats.
yeah, so
Going
thank you.
strong.
Yeah, going strong, still making an impact on our community and giving back. So I've, ever since that happened, I've dedicated 5 years of my life, even maybe more now, to giving back and supporting our community and doing whatever I can because I had those coaches, because he said those words to me. I want you to continue to come. You need this.
I think that just really goes to show how FitBody, not only owners, coaches, just everyone involved, like they truly care about you as a person. It's not a dollar sign on your head.
Yeah.
It's nothing like that. Like they really care about you
Yeah.
in your core, you know?
Right. And it goes beyond fitness.
Yeah.
It goes beyond health, like in mental health, right? It's just the emotional support that I had. So shout out to my coaches from Cypress Fit Body Boot Camp. Because they, you know, they really, without them, I don't think that I would be here. I mean, I probably would have went into a deep depression if I hadn't kept going and showing up.
See that right there?
Yeah.
You made it a priority and you
Yeah.
kept going and you had that support. And it's really amazing, Zenia.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so now that you are a Fit Body Bootcamp owner, and I know you give back so much, you sponsor a 5K run. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we sponsor the only 5K in Fountain Valley. It's we've made it a theme, so it's a superhero theme. So every year we pick like a superhero to play off. This past year we did Star Wars, which they're not superheroes, but you know,
But it's
it was
still
popular.
kinda, yeah.
So we just make it fun for our community. 100% of the proceeds goes back to a nonprofit of the runner's choice. So they just go online and they pick where they want the money to get donated. So it's all ran by the Fountain Valley Community Foundation, which is a really core nonprofit that does a lot for our community. And we sponsor it because it's health and fitness related, and we just want to give back. We don't benefit from it as a business, but it's our big charity event. So every year we average about $20,000 to $22,000, and it goes back to all the nonprofits.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really awesome.
So, and then, you know, we also support all the stuff that goes on at HQ, like Toys for Tots.
Toys for Tots, right,
Yeah.
exactly.
So always trying to be involved in that. And I do serve on our Fountain Valley Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors.
Okay.
So I'm really involved in the business community as well. And like I said, you know, I just come with like a service-driven heart because there have been so many people who have helped me get to where I am now that it's like it's my responsibility and obligation.
Paying it forward. Absolutely.
Definitely.
So kind of got to wrap it up here, but I want to know, what does living beyond the scale mean to you?
Living beyond the scale for me is your mindset and coming with a genuine heart, recognizing non-scalable victories, like how does your clothes fit, what is your energy level like, also practicing gratitude. So through a lot of, and this is so common because every coach that I've worked with here at HQ and outside of HQ is gratitude is one of the biggest things. And that's kind of where it started, was like my gratitude for my coaches and for Fit Body Bootcamp as a whole, which kind of manifested everything to what it is now. So definitely practicing gratitude, because when you get to your lowest low where you don't have anything, then that's when you start recognizing what you do have. And also that's where your true faith comes into play. So just that's what it means to me, beyond the scale. You know, it's not a number, it's how you feel, how you treat other people, and just loving yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, that's where it comes from first, is loving yourself, so that way you can help others and, you know, help them love themselves, love them when they can't love themselves.
And definitely learning how to take care of yourself, like me time and self-care, because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't serve other people.
Exactly.
And you can't take care of your loved ones.
Right. It's like the whole story about on the plane. You got to put your oxygen mask on, save yourself first, so that way you can save others.
Yes, definitely.
Well, thank you so much for sharing today, Zenia. Your
Thank
story,
you.
I know, is going to impact so many people out there, so I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
So, Zenia, if people want to visit your Fit Body Bootcamp location, where can they go?
We are located in Fountain Valley, and you can visit our website at www.fountainvalleybootcamp.com, and I hope to see you guys at boot camp soon.
And for those of you that may not be in the Fountain Valley area, but you are ready to start your fitness journey and want to try Fit Body Bootcamp out, make sure you check out fitbodybootcamp.com to claim your 3 free workouts. Thank you again, Zenia, for coming on and sharing your story.
Of course.
See you guys next time. Did you know that you could have done a full workout in the amount of time it took you to listen to this podcast? Go to fitbodybootcamp.com to claim your 3 free sessions now. And remember to join me next Tuesday so you can see who our special guest is. Until then, remember to live a fit body, fit mind forever.